The Great Emu War, the strangest battle in history. Dramatic black and white footage of soldiers with rifles, birds running chaotically, and a dusty Australian outback. Imagine an army of soldiers, armed with machine guns, sent to wage war against birds. Not just any birds, giant, flightless emus, thousands of them, tearing through farmland like an unstoppable force. This isn't a movie. This is the Great Emu War of 1932, the strangest battle in modern history. In the next 15 minutes, I'll tell you how Australia declared war on emus and lost. Stick around, because you won't believe how this ends. Fade to a map of Australia, zooming into Western Australia. Hello, history lovers. Welcome back to your channel name, where we uncover the wildest, most forgotten stories from the past. I'm your name, and today, we are diving into a tale so bizarre it sounds like fiction, the Great Emu War. It's a story of desperation, human hubris, and nature's surprising resilience. If you love quirky history that makes you laugh, think, and maybe even cheer for the underdog, or underbird, this one's for you. Let's get started. The ordinary world sepia-toned images of 1930s Australian farmland, farmers working, and emus grazing. It's 1932, and the world is reeling from the Great Depression. In Western Australia, life is tough for farmers, especially for World War I veterans who were given land as a reward for their service. These men, hardened by war, were promised fertile fields to start new lives. But the reality? Harsh, dusty plains, scorching heat, and crops that barely survived. By 1932, these farmers faced a new enemy, not drought, not economic collapse, but something entirely unexpected: emus. Emus, if you don't know, are Australia's second largest birds, standing up to 6 feet tall, with powerful legs that let them sprint at 30 miles per hour. They're like ostriches on steroids, and in 1932, they were everywhere. After a particularly hot summer, about 20,000 emus migrated into the farmlands of Campion and Walgoolan, looking for food and water. These weren't cute little birds pecking at seeds. They were a feathered army, trampling wheat fields, destroying fences, and eating crops faster than farmers could harvest them. B-roll of emus running, crops being trampled, farmers looking frustrated. One farmer, James Lewis, wrote in a letter to the government, "These birds are like locusts. They come in waves, and by morning, my fields are gone." For men who'd survived the trenches of World War I, this was a new kind of war, one they weren't prepared for. The farmers begged the Australian government for help, and what happened next would go down as one of the most absurd moments in military history. The call to adventure visuals, archival footage of 1930s military trucks, soldiers loading Lewis guns, and newspaper headlines. Enter Sir George Pearce, Australia's Minister for Defence. Pearce saw an opportunity, not just to help the farmers, but to show the government's strength in a time of crisis. His solution: deploy the military. Yes, you heard that right. The Australian Army was sent to fight emus. Pearce assigned Major G.P.W. Meredith of the Royal Australian Artillery to lead the operation, equipping him with 2 Lewis machine guns, light, rapid-fire weapons used in World War I, and 10,000 rounds of ammunition. 2 soldiers, Sergeant McMurray and Gunner O'Halloran, joined Meredith, along with a small support crew. Animated reenactment of soldiers setting up in the outback, emus in the distance. The plan was simple: drive into emu territory, set up the guns, and scare or shoot the birds away. The farmers cheered as the military rolled in on November 2, 1932, expecting a quick victory. After all, these were trained soldiers with machine guns, facing flightless birds. What could go wrong? Spoiler alert: everything. The first skirmish was a disaster. The soldiers spotted a group of about 50 emus near Campion and opened fire. But the emus? They scattered like lightning. Their long legs carried them out of range in seconds, zigzagging through the scrubland. The Lewis guns, designed for trench warfare, were clunky and hard to aim at fast-moving targets. By the end of the day, the soldiers had fired hundreds of rounds and killed maybe a dozen emus. The rest? They just kept running. Humorous animation of emus dodging bullets, soldiers looking confused. Meredith reported back, "These birds are smarter than we thought." The emus didn't just run, they seemed to have tactics. Farmers noticed the birds moved in groups led by a dominant male, who would signal danger with a grunt, sending the flock scattering. It was like the emus had their own general. The soldiers tried again on November 4th, this time setting up an ambush near a dam where emus gathered to drink. They waited until over 1,000 emus were in sight, then unleashed a barrage. But the guns jammed after a few rounds, and the emus vanished into the bush. The score? Soldiers, 0. Emus, still winning. Tests, allies, and enemies visuals. Newspaper clippings with headlines like Emu War escalates, soldiers repairing guns, farmers arguing. The farmers were frustrated, the soldiers were embarrassed, and the Australian press was having a field day. Headlines mocked the Great Emu War, with one paper calling it a feathered fiasco. But Major Meredith wasn't ready to give up. He adapted, ordering his men to mount the Lewis guns on trucks for mobility, chasing the emus across the plains. This led to some comical scenes, a truck bouncing over rough terrain, soldiers firing wildly, and emus sprinting away, unharmed. One soldier later wrote, "It's like trying to shoot a shadow." B-roll of a truck chase, emus outrunning it, with light-hearted music. The emus' resilience wasn't just physical, it was psychological. They didn't panic under fire, they adapted. Farmers reported emus learning to avoid certain areas or splitting into smaller groups to confuse the soldiers. By mid-November, after 2 weeks and thousands of rounds fired, the official count was around 50 emus killed, out of 20,000. The soldiers were exhausted, the guns were overheating, and the government was running out of patience. Pearce faced pressure to end the operation, but he doubled down, sending Meredith back out on November 12th. This time, the soldiers tried a new tactic, targeting smaller groups and using local farmers as spotters. For a moment, it worked. They killed a few hundred emus over several days. But the cost was staggering. Each emu killed used about 10 bullets, making it one of the most expensive pest control operations in history. And the emus? They just kept coming, eating crops and mocking the military's efforts. Animated graphs showing bullets used versus emus killed, with a humorous emu victory stamp. By December, the government had had enough. Pearce recalled the troops, declaring the operation a failure. The farmers were left to fend for themselves, resorting to old-fashioned methods like fences and scarecrows. The emus, meanwhile, roamed free, their numbers barely dented. The Great Emu War was over, and the birds had won. Resolution and reflection, modern footage of emus in the wild, farmers working, and a sunrise over the outback. So, what can we learn from this bizarre chapter in history? The Great Emu War is more than just a funny story. It's a lesson in human overconfidence and nature's unpredictability. The Australian government thought military might could solve a problem better suited for ingenuity and cooperation. Farmers eventually found better solutions, like stronger fences and crop rotation, proving that sometimes brains beat bullets. Visuals. Archival photos of 1930s farmers, modern emu conservation efforts. The war also sparked a strange kind of respect for emus. Today, they're a protected species in Australia, admired for their strength and adaptability. The Great Emu War remains a footnote in history, rarely taught in schools, but it's a reminder that even the best laid plans can go awry when you underestimate your opponent, even if that opponent is a bird. For audiences in the USA and Europe, this story resonates because it's a universal tale of hubris, struggle, and unexpected humor. It's like David versus Goliath, except Goliath is a 6-foot-tall bird that runs faster than Usain Bolt. It's a story that makes you laugh, but also makes you think. How often do we rush into battles without understanding what we are up against? Outro and call to action visuals, your channel logo, clips from this video, and a subscribe button animation. And that's the wild tale of the Great Emu War. If you enjoyed this dive into one of history's strangest battles, hit that like button and subscribe to your channel name for more forgotten stories that'll make you laugh, cry, or just shake your head in disbelief. We drop new videos every your schedule, so you don't want to miss out. Oh, and one last thing, I'm curious about you. In the comments below, tell me, how old are you, and where are you from? I love hearing from our global community of history nerds. Until next time, keep exploring the past, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.